God, I'm telling you, my dogs are barking today.
But man, my dogs are barking.
Well, welcome into the My Dogs Are Barking podcast. This is week 2 of the college football season, and Mississippi State is taking on Arizona. Last season, the Bulldogs got the win on the road in Arizona. For us folks here in the Central Time Zone, it was a very late game. This is going to be a little bit better as Mississippi State will be taking on Arizona a lot earlier. We're not going to have to stay up all night long, but it should be exciting. We're gonna do a quick preview for that game. Really not much to recap for Mississippi State and Southeastern Louisiana. Mississippi State got the win, got it in a pretty convincing fashion. The Bulldogs are a lot more balanced on offense. 300 rushing yards for Mississippi State, which is just unheard of for these past couple of years being in the air raid. But especially Jaquavius Marks, Woody Marks, over 100 yards rushing. The first 100-yard rusher since Kylan Hill in 2019. I mean, so we're talking, we're going on 4 seasons of not having 100-yard rushers. So this is very interesting to see. Will Rogers didn't look great in the new offense. He was efficient, didn't turn the ball over or anything. But there just wasn't a lot of spectacular throws. I think one of the better throws he had was to Creed Whittemore, who was kind of wide open, ran a great route. That's a takeaway from the game. The defense played well after really that first series. Mississippi State did well after that. At that point, it looks like Creed Whittemore, true freshman, is going to be a guy that the Bulldog faithful can be excited about. I mean, what a playmaker, true freshman out of Florida. His dad played at Florida. I believe he had an older sibling that played at Florida as well. Could be wrong, but looks to be like a guy that Mississippi State can go after and get the ball to in space. Very exciting. Seth Davis played a little bit tailback, backing up. And so a lot of different players got to play. We got to see our first little bit of Rylan Goody. And, so Mississippi State put out the victory for the upcoming opponent, Arizona. And if you remember that Arizona game last year, the main thing I think to look at Arizona and kind of think about is Arizona has a wildly talented quarterback in Jayden de Laura. He's a guy who's super dynamic, can scramble, very elusive, can get rid of the ball, and kind of get himself out of tough situations by just making great plays. Just some quick kind of stats for Jayden de Laura. Threw for 285, 3 touchdowns. Did throw an interception, but he also rushed for 47 yards just on 3 carries, so almost averaging 16 yards a carry, and he had a touchdown. That is going, that's going to be a big part of this game, is figuring out how to stop Jayden de Laura, how to contain him. I think it is impossible to say, Jayden de Laura is going to make plays with his feet. He's going to extend plays, and there is going to be a time that Mississippi State fans are frustrated because he's going to escape out of the pocket. He's going to get loose. He's going to do something crazy, complete a long pass, maybe a touchdown. That looks like that's the case with Jayden de Laura. He just makes those kind of plays that not a lot of other people can make. The flip side of that is he will likely also have a turnover or 2 just because he's extending plays, he's keeping things, and all of a sudden he'll make a mistake. Right now, Mississippi State is favored at 9.5. Interesting line. It is going to be interesting. It is in Starkville. I think that certainly helps Mississippi State. Jayden de Laura, again, I think really would keep them in this game. Arizona certainly is an improved program. Jedd Fisch is doing a really good job in their games. They had a big win last year where he kind of brought it all together on the road against who was UCLA. Jayden de Laura really kind of brought it all together. So we'll see if he can do the same thing in Starkville this time around. But man, I got to tell you, it is going to be an exciting matchup. Buki Watson from Mississippi State had an outstanding game in the game versus Sela. Southeastern Louisiana. I believe he had 8 tackles, had a sack, had a forced fumble, played really, really well. Just kind of looking over some of the stats here. And Zach Arnett was interesting in the post game, just mentioning that how much work they had to do going forward. Overall, Mississippi State had 525 yards. Gave up, gave up 208 yards overall. That's what it was. Yeah, Buki Watson had 8 tackles and 1.5 sacks in the game. He's going to be a guy, that might be the matchup. Jaden DeLora out of the pocket versus Buki Watson. Can Buki get to him before he scrambles away or just makes a play and gets out of the pocket into safety? Another person that was cause for that is cause for interest is transfer quarterback Mike Wright, the transfer from Vanderbilt. We already knew he's an outstanding runner of the football. He rushed the ball for 5 times for 95 yards. And if you were in the stadium, and maybe at home you felt this too, but if you're in the stadium, when he started running the ball, there was some remarkable momentum, and it was like you were taken back in a brief moment to remembering what it was like for Mississippi State as a fan to have a quarterback that runs. You know, when he ran, I went, Nick Fitzgerald. I didn't even go Garrett Schrader, who was the most recent guy who could run, or touchdown Tommy Stevens. Nobody calls Tommy Stevens that, but it's a fun nickname. And so Mike Wright is a guy that's going to be inserted in the lineup. And if Arizona, that might be an interesting thing. If Arizona can play well on those first 3 downs, on a 4th and short, I think Mike Wright's going to run it up the middle. And that is going to be a question. Can the Mississippi State offensive line get a push on the Arizona defensive line? If that's the case, if it looks like the offensive linemen for Mississippi State are whooping them early on, I don't think we're going to have any sort of problem, because I think Mississippi State's going to know in the back of their head we can convert if we need to on a late on some like a 4th down, that 4th and short kind of deal. So anyway, yeah, Mississippi State played great overall. This past weekend, week 1 for college football was great. All the talk is on Colorado and TCU. What a fun game that was. That was so wonderful. Just so exciting. This weekend is Alabama and Texas. And that is going to be a game in Tuscaloosa that's going to be huge. College Game Day is going to be there. And it's going to be a huge game. I think I want to see the line for that game right now. I want to say it's Alabama by like a few. By 2 or so. Let's see. The odds for today. Actually, wow, no kidding. Okay, yeah, the game at this given moment is 2 days out, or 3 days out, is Alabama favored by 7.5, which is really interesting, man. I don't know. The game last year in Texas was close. Outside of Bryce Young, I don't know if it would have happened the way it ended up happening. I'm taking Alabama to win that game. I think Jalen Milroe is going to be... I think this could be a game that he is absolutely explosive and kind of a coming-out party for him. He's got some gifts when it comes to running the ball that are really, really good. The way he can kind of maneuver, he's very fast, but also smart. I think Alabama wins this game. I don't think it's by 7.5. I mean, I could see it being a field goal or by 4 or 5 points. It's going to be a really close game, I think. And ultimately, Alabama's going to win that game. I think Jalen Milroe... I know we're talking a lot about Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders as Heisman guys right now, and Caleb Williams. Even though after this weekend, it's just kind of funny. It's like, oh, who cares about Caleb Williams? We're worried about these 2 guys from Colorado. And they are incredible. But if there's a dark horse guy that no one's talking... there's always just some guy... Like this time last year... a few people knew who Max Duggan was, but no one thought about him as being a guy invited to the Heisman Trophy ceremony. He ended up finishing 2nd. And so there's somebody out there on a team that is we're not thinking about right now that's going to come out and show out. I happen to think that's Jalen Milroe. I think he is super talented, and I get it. Like, not the best thrower of the football, but this is Alabama. Like, they're going to have open guys. They're such a smart team. Can he hit an open receiver? Then he can do this because he's an elite runner. And so no one asked for that. I wanted to get that out there. Jalen Milroe, I have a really good feeling about for the end of the season. If you have a Heisman favorite right now, who is it? Let me know in the comments. I would love to know. It's just fascinating. I feel like, really, we were sitting here 3 weeks ago, and really Caleb Williams was the only person anybody was talking about for good reason. Who else? Who else was favored? McCarthy in Michigan. Give me a break, right? Nobody thinks the Michigan quarterback's going to win a Heisman. I wouldn't think. It just didn't seem, based upon their offense last year, did not seem very likely. So I am picking Alabama to win this weekend. I think they're going to beat Texas. It's going to be a fun game. Super excited about it. I think Mississippi State is going to beat Arizona in Starkville. It's a night game. I know they're favored by 9.5. I think this one's going to get away from Arizona a little bit in the second half. Again, as really the offensive line, the line of scrimmage is where a lot of games are won and lost. I think Mississippi State's experienced offensive line is going to be able to run and ground and pound and ultimately get the win. But before I stamp that in, I do want to say the Bulldogs, while they did rush for a lot of yards, early on, it wasn't looking that way. And remember, Mike Wright at the quarterback position had 95 of those of those yards. There was a lot of Woody marks for 2 to 3 yards, and then all of a sudden kind of hitting a big play. And again, as the game went on, he played a lot better. But it was interesting to see a offensive line that has only really played in air raid all of a sudden be playing in this offense that's spread, and a touch of tempo there, and but Mississippi State fans have a lot to be excited about. I think fans of all teams have a lot to be excited about. Maybe unless you're Clemson, but every other fan base I think has a lot to be excited about. And football season is back. Super excited. Of course, cannot forget this one last piece of news. We did find out a couple days ago on the Stingray show, Dan Mullen is going to be calling the Egg Bowl on Thanksgiving night. Dan Mullen, our old friend in Starkville, is going to be coming back. I'm excited about that. I think he is he's an interesting guy. A lot of people say he made the Egg Bowl rivalry even more toxic. I can't really disagree. But remember, 2009, as he's coming in, this is a Mississippi State program with not a lot of juice at all, and he kind of created some excitement. So very excited about that. That's going to be really neat. Ole Miss takes on Tulane this weekend, and I know there's some. I think Ole Miss is only favored by 7, and I get thinking this is going to be a close game, but Tulane lost a pretty good amount of talent last year. And Ole Miss's offense was rolling. I know they're rolling against Mercer. I get that. But they were looking really good. So we will see how that plays out. I got Ole Miss winning by multiple touchdowns. I don't think it's going to be very close. I will give you an upset of the week. That is a game that currently not a lot of people are looking at picking. Kansas State and Troy. The Troy Trojans, I think, are going to be the upset this week. I think there's going to be a lot of people who are surprised. Kansas State won their opening game versus Southeastern Missouri State or something like that, some directional trucking school. Beat them 45-0. And that's impressive, but look at the talent. Troy, I have a very good feeling about it. I think this is a game where they could come in, really compete, and make it very close. The spread's 16.5. People that think it's going to win by at least 16.5. I think Troy's going to make it a lot closer game than that. Lastly, Colorado and Nebraska. What a game that is setting up to be. I'm hearing arguments from both sides that Colorado is the team. They're going all the way. People are really overhyping them. Arizona, I think, is the underdog by 3. Arizona. My apologies. Nebraska. I think Nebraska gets the win here. I know it's because I just think it's too easy to say, well, Colorado's going to blow them out. I don't think so. I think it's a lot. It's very easy to say that based on just this past week, but I don't think so. I think Nebraska is going to come up with a win. Colorado is going to lose some momentum from this first week. TCU is a very bad defensive team. Don't forget about that. Even going back to last year, well, their last game they played a juggernaut. I'll say that. But Colorado had a great first week, but remember their defense was rough. I mean, they gave up 42 points. I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at. But I'm excited about Colorado, and I'm so glad that they are. I'm glad Deion's there. It's so fun for college football. It really is. But I think Nebraska is going to come out with a close win. There's a lot to be said for teams that come off a very big emotional win and then play the next week. It's almost often a letdown. And I think this is going to be one of those cases. So I'm very excited for week 2. We're going to see. I think we're going to see Will Rogers have to, possibly if this gets into a shootout situation, Rogers is going to have to air it out a little bit. I don't think it's going to come to that. I think Mississippi State is going to control the clock, going to control the line of scrimmage, and I think they're going to win by at least 14. I'm excited about it though. It's going to be a great week. Week 3, right? No, we were in week 2. We're in week 2. Thank goodness. I was about to get upset. Like, man, it's because we played 3 weeks. Anyway. But it's going to be a great time. I hope you have a good place to watch the game. I hope you have some good barbecue and hanging out with some good friends and have a ball. This is the My Dogs Are Barking podcast. My name is Landon, and we'll see you next time. Hail State.